What's up, YouTube? So here I am at Oregon Shakespeare Festival in Oregon Shakespeare Festival's company or employee housing. I moved into the employee housing like, was it the 18th? Almost a week ago now, so I've been here for like a week. Some people have asked, well, what about the tiny house that I was in before? Well, that tiny house was always a temporary situation. Honestly, let's roll back time a little bit. I was offered company housing, not this specific apartment, but company housing or employee housing as soon as I had my OSF contract. But in my hard-headed head, I was like, I have a house. Like, I'm driving a house up there, you know, my box truck, my built-out box truck. I don't need the housing. And so at first I said, I declined. And so there was a slight housing stipend for you to find your own housing that came in. And it was super tiny. It wouldn't have covered rent anywhere. But I was like, I have the box truck. I have housing. I will choose to, you know, stay in the housing that I'm driving down there. I thought it'd be easier. I wouldn't have to worry about moving out of the box truck to live somewhere else. And honestly, I'm one of those people who like my space. One of the advantages to van life to me is you drive your house anywhere, and at night you still get to be at home. You still get to be comfortable with your own things. And I think there's a big difference between having a van for a camper and having a van or RV or whatever that is your home. Like, it is your full-time, all-the-time home. And that's how you think of it. So you enter into it with a different mentality. And so the idea of like not staying in your house when your house is like right there feels kind of silly to you. Like when you have a camper, or it's just a travel vehicle, or if it's just something to get you to adventurous places and it's not really your house, like you don't have that emotional attachment to it as your house, it's just this thing to get you places and to be a place to sleep when you get to places, but not necessarily the place you would choose if you had another option, or what you might consider a more glamorous option. And so it's two different kinds of headspaces. So I was in the space of, I'm bringing my house to Oregon Shakespeare Festival. Why not just stay in my house? And so I was bound and determined to stay in that house for the entire season without hesitation. Well, two things happened. One, it got ridiculously hot, like terribly, terribly, terribly hot. And if it was just me, I don't think it would have affected me as much. But the thing is, I came here with one pet, and while I was here, I acquired another pet, and at this point I have two cats. And so when I was working super long hours, super long days, or even short days, any sort of thing where I was going to be away from the truck in the middle of the day, there was no way for me to be in the truck to personally regulate the temperature. Yes, I could plug in things and leave them, but I had, you know, there was always a chance of something going wrong with power, and that's just a reality. But when I'm in the box truck, when I'm in the situation, which has been my reality since I got Mickey at the beginning of COVID, and so we were always home in the van together. So if it was hot, I could mediate that situation for both of us. But when I'm away and I'm at work and I'm in an air-conditioned space, and I'm not 100% sure that things are cooled down properly in the box truck, I'm not sure my pet is in the best of conditions. And I did everything I could. I bought an air conditioning unit. I've always had fans. I've always had methods I could turn on to cool it down, but I wasn't there to monitor the changing conditions of the day. So that was thing number one. Thing number two was smoke. There have been several smoke situations that have threatened the air quality in general. And in that situation, being in the box truck was worse than being inside of a house, especially since a lot of the methods I was using to cool down the box truck involved pulling in air from the outside, air that was being affected by the air quality of the smoke. And so since where I was parked, luckily I was given a parking spot with power, but where I was parked, they had that little tiny house that I showed in my other video. And so they gave me permission to stay in there if I needed to. But I'd already reached out to OSF and I asked specifically for a month until it cooled off. But I'd already also reached out to OSF and said, hey, I changed my mind, you know, is there any housing available? And there are little details about contracts and situations that are completely irrelevant to this video that affected, but unfortunately, at the moment that I asked was the moment where they were really tapped out on housing. Like, all the housing they had available was full, because we had a lot of things going on. And there was a certain point where we got the last 2 shows of the festival up and everybody was leaving. And so they were like, the first date that we can just give you housing till the end of your contract is this date. And so when I went to ask for the tiny house, it was until that date. It wasn't supposed to be any longer than that date or anything else. Now, they might have been kind and allowed me to stay there, but I didn't feel comfortable with that myself, because I'm, you know, and I even offered, hey, can I give you something for like the resources that I'm using, which would be water, electricity, all those things. And they were super kind and just didn't want me to worry about it. It was like, take care of yourself, you know, buy yourself your food or your things that you need to function. Don't worry about it. But I also did not want to overextend that any more than I had to, especially since it's basically my fault for turning down housing in the first place, because I'm hard-headed. Because I was warned about the heat and the smoke. And I'm like, I've been in a box truck in the heat. I've dealt with a little bit of smoke. But one of the big situations, things I hadn't thought about, was the fact of, since I had Mickey, we have pretty much always been together. I've never had a work situation where we had the extended amount of time apart as I did in this work situation. It was a very different sort of thing. There was a steady need for me to be somewhere, and I've had these on and off positions, or these very short-term positions where it was temporary work where Mickey was never that far away. Like when I did a show with Oakland Theater Project, like the box truck was parked in the parking lot while I was working. I came out at the end of the day. I could have gone out at every break and seen Mickey. And so he was never that far away where I couldn't regulate the situation or I didn't know he was okay. And this was the first situation where I had no guarantee that that could always be the case. And I hadn't really dealt with like the sort of long days that were involved in working with the Oregon Shakespeare Festival. And so like I should have made the choice at the beginning to take the housing when it was offered. And it would have made a lot of things easier, most especially running home at any break that was an hour or more just to check on them. And sometimes it was just literally to open the door, make sure everything was okay, which usually was, close the door and then go back to work. But there were days where I would have been like, you know what, I know he's fine, and I don't have to like stress out about getting to him during the dinner break or whatever was going on during the day. And so that I do kind of regret not taking the housing at the beginning of the season. But I think it sort of changed my mindset on it. It's like there are certain complications to living van life that if I'm going to be stuck in one place working and they're offering me housing, it's kind of stupid of me not to take the housing. And realize that is a part of my nomad life. I mean, I literally, within 2 months, have lived in 2 different, houses. And then, by mid-October, I'm going to be back in the box truck for at least 2 to 3 months. And then I might have some other housing at my next job. And that's how my personal nomad life looks, and that is okay. And so it was a thing I wrestled with, not because I was so concerned about not living in a van, but because in my brain, it made logical sense to me at the time that I had a house. And the truth was, the house, honestly, the first couple of months was fine. It was really at the height of summer and portions of smoke season where it was not fine. And it was definitely not fine for me as a pet owner. But when I came here in 2020, before the festival got shut down because of, what was going on with COVID-19, I didn't have a pet and I was living in a minivan. And so I didn't even hesitate to take housing there. I was like, yeah, obviously I'm going to take the housing. And my minivan fit in the parking lot and it could park on the street. And I had no particular concerns about the size of it. And so, like, that was a no hesitation situation. But I'd never gone through the whole season in that situation. I was only here maybe a month. I mean, like, I didn't even work 2 weeks of the season. I was maybe in the area like a month or so, not really that long. And so I'd never gone through the seasons in Ashland before. And so, like, I kind of took, when it was like, you really should take the housing because of the smoke and the heat. I was like, because they knew I was living in the box. Like, I never hid anything. I don't like to hide it. Like, I'm not going to walk up to people and be like, hey, what's up? I live in a box truck. But if people ask about my situation, I don't feel like lying or making things up. I've always been truthful. Sometimes as I've known people, like, it's come out and people been like, oh, what? Like, while I was working the festival, like, oh, what housing are you staying in? Are you in this one? And I'm like, I'm in my box truck. And they'd be like, what? And I explain the situation. And half the time people, like, they thought it was cool or interesting, or like they were intrigued about it. Nobody judged me or made me feel like bad about it, which was really cool. So yeah, it was never a matter of me hiding what I was actually living in or like trying to like beat the system or anything like that. It was just, I'm hard-headed. And I do like the idea of being in my house with my things. I kind of know my routine, and I like the idea of not having to change that routine because the space is different, or like I moved a bunch of stuff here and I don't quite know, you know, the function of operating, you know, as quickly and easily, as smoothly as I do in my space that I set up for me. But that was also stupid. And realizing it was stupid is what made me reach out finally and say, hey, if you have housing, I'll take it. I'll take it until the end of the season. And it was the most terrible timing in the world, because it was at the point that so many people were here. They literally didn't have any housing they could give me at the time. I did not expect to be given a 2-bedroom apartment, which is what this is. I actually I have closed off access to one of the rooms because I don't need it. I mean, like, this space is insanely big compared to what I'm used to living in. Like, this is comparatively like a mansion to me. But anyway, that's all I got to say about that. Let's show you guys the space. So this is the front door. It goes basically out to the front. And OSF's little welcome stuff is right here. And if you turn around, there's a little patio out there with like 2 chairs. And this is the second level of the complex, and then there's another complex over there. And it honestly has a great view. I usually leave this window open for the cats, but this is a chair that I primarily sit in. I have some stuff over here, including those are 2 flexible solar panels I'm hoping to add to the box truck when I get it back. My book bag, which has all of my work stuff, and some other little odds and ends that are mostly for the box truck. And then my yoga mats over there. There was somebody who was going to do some yoga classes, and that hasn't happened, but I brought the yoga mat in here just in case. This is my little table, which folds up flat. I never showed you guys this. I bought this a little while ago, but it's been great to have like a little end table over here by this chair, because I use this chair a lot. Then I got some stuff for the cats. We got this cat tree, which is from the truck. I've also had this for a while. And this is just like some of those cheap scratch and posts that kind of run out and you can just toss them out. But just a couple of things from the scratch over here. This is basically the cat zone with a nice little view. So this is Mickey's new backpack. And this is the carrier I've been using for Felix since I brought him home. So basically these are the cat carriers. I like to leave them open and available for them to crawl in and out of. Of course, we have King Mickey over here on the edge of the couch. That pillow is usually down here, but he likes to sit right there and sleep on it, so I'm leaving it right there for him. And this is the TV, which actually has this cool little Roku thing right here. which has been great because I didn't know you could put a Roku in guest mode and just log in with your accounts, and then on my end date it'll just delete itself and it'll log out of my account, so the next person who uses this space won't have my accounts. They can put in their accounts. And then of course I have the controller for my Switch. I have my Switch in the TV dock, and have my microphone right here for if I want to do some recording and editing. I have my Mavic right here. So this is basically a nice little entertainment zone. We have the big old couch. I do have my bike ready to go on a bike trainer. Of course, I could always pop it off and take it outside, but I have it set up on the bike trainer in the living room. Let's zoom out a little bit. So there it is. This is basically the living room. There's a giant mirror right there, of course. And let's go around to the back entrance / the kitchen / the dining room. You've already moved, boy. And back here is the back entrance. So you can actually enter from here. I have the screen door and the regular door. This does lock from the outside, so I can actually leave from here, use this little bridge, and this is how I moved in. I parked on the street over there, and then I just walked everything down and into this way. I've had the Zero Breeze for a while, and I filmed a review of it. I have mixed feelings about it, and I just haven't gotten to actually editing it together. I'm sure they regret sending it to me because I was not prompt with a review. I pushed the dining room table further against the wall so that I could put their litter box in this corner. So the whole litter box setup, this is where I moved it to. I had a couple of debates about where to put it, but this seemed like the most logical. I definitely wanted it on one of this floor and not the carpeted floor. And so much of this apartment is carpeted, so this corner made the most sense. It's only for a month. It's not a permanent setup, so this is good enough to get us through the month. This is the main dining room table. I put a power strip in here, and this has become my little charging station. So I pop things in and out on this charging station. I have my work laptop, which is the black one. That gets returned to OSF at the end of the season. The silver laptop is my very old personal laptop. And yeah, some other stuff over here. Charging. Cool little poster on the wall. Alright. Whoop. And now we're over here in the kitchen. Obviously I set up the cat's water fountain and their dry food right here. Have their bowls, their wet food, the sink with a few dirty dishes, the stove, a microwave, standard residential fridge, you know, standard stuff. When I got here, the fan was broken, but now it works. Yay. Apparently the motor had been burnt out. And we have a window to the outside, which again points to that same street with that little bridge that goes to the actual street that I'm living on. Like, the address for this place, ironically, is right out there. Even though technically this is the back entrance and the front entrance is on the other side. But it's just the way the thing is addressed. And it's on this giant hill, so it's kind of ridiculous. Now, when you walk behind the couch here, Jesus, Mickey, you get around. Now you're over here. I haven't seen Felix. Where is he? Oh, there he is. Felix has shown up, so there's Felix. But Mickey's back on the corner of the couch. So through this little pathway, this is basically a storage closet, you know, with towels and laundry stuff and things like that. This is the bedroom I'm using. This is the bedroom door I've decided to keep closed. The cats haven't even been in here because I'm like, I don't need the second bedroom, and it's another space I don't need to worry about them getting in. So I've just been keeping this bedroom door closed. I already have too much space. I don't need the extra one. Here is the bathroom. It has a full tub and shower. And then, of course, we have the sink over here. We got a medicine cabinet with the 3 doors. Boom. All that stuff right there. There's me. Hi. Let's close this door. Alright, so behind the door we have a washer and dryer. I have a full washer and dryer right now. This is kind of the coolest thing. It's like when I want to wash stuff, it's right here. I don't have to go anywhere. I'm not used to this convenience. Even at other times where I've had like employee housing and stuff like that, it was either a separate laundry room or I still had to go to the laundromat. So having the washer and dryer is really, really nice. Not every housing unit at OSF has in-unit washing, so the fact that I have it is really, really cool. I have been leaving my scale here so I can weigh myself. And this is the bedroom I am using. It's the bigger of the two, but it also just feels less claustrophobic. You just want to be all in the video, huh, Mickey? You got to show everything off. So this is the bed I've been sleeping in. It has 2 night tables. This is my nighttime bedside charging. So I have cable set up so I can plug things in at night that I want in the room with me. I have been using this dresser. These windows, I like how high they are, because even if you're undressing, like nobody can really see you because the windows are high. So first of all, we're up on a hill where it'd be hard, but I still like the idea of the high windows. And they have nice enough sills that the cat can jump on them. And the funny thing was, the first time Mickey tried to jump up here, the blinds were down, and he jumped into the blinds and fell. And so since then, I've just pulled the blinds up and left them up so that he always has a space to jump into. Felix has been up there as well. There's mirrors and stuff around. Wall decor. This chair, which is really nice for getting dressed. Sometimes, like to sit down and put on socks or whatever. And then, of course, there's a closet here. I don't have a heck of a lot of clothes, so there isn't a lot in this closet, but I have a few things hanging up. I was only going to be here for a month, so I just wanted to unpack enough to live and exist for a month, not unpack everything. So I still have some bins sitting around that have stuff in them because honestly, you know, I wanted to organize them and just put them back in the box truck, but the box truck is at the mechanics until Monday, at least, because they're waiting for the part to come in. They found it. So yeah, there's some bins that are just bins that are sitting around just so it's quicker to pack up and get out of here when the time comes. Hi, Felix. Where you going? Under the bed? No, you just hanging out? Alright, bye, dude. And so that is pretty much the place. I can give you another view as I walk this way. There's the front door. There's the back sliding door. Kitchen, dining room. Tons of space. I mean, I think this living room alone is more space than I live in under normal circumstances. It's a little crazy. So another thing, living in the box truck while I was here at the festival did keep me from doing and did get in the way of was hanging out with other people. And I don't mean that, again, anybody was judging me for living in the box truck or anything like that. Like, when I'm around other van lifers, it's friggin' perfect. Like, you know, when I went to RTR and I went to Schoolypalooza, I was with a group of other van lifers for a bit. And so we all had our rigs parked together on a piece of BLM land and we're hanging out. You can't have that kind of existence in an urban environment as easily. Yes, there are urban van lifers that find each other and they create these communities, but it doesn't just happen as easily because in most situations, the last thing you want to do is draw attention to yourself by hanging out with other van lifers in huge clumps. Like, that is a good way to get targeted. And I think, like, that's one of my firm rules when I am in a long-term urban van life situation. If I'm visiting somewhere or have a specific connection I'm making with people, that's one thing. But one of the things to do in urban van life is not advertise in huge clumps, and that's going to give you the most peace. But the other thing is the problem of, you know, wanting to make sure that Mickey was safe. And then once I had Felix, Mickey and Felix were safe. So the idea of like being away from the box truck for anything explicitly other than work terrified me because it was like, if I'm not at work, I need to be with my pets and making sure that they are okay. And so a lot of times I was pulling out of situations where people like wanted to hang out after work, or like, hey, we're going to do this on our day off, or we're going to do that on our day off. And so one, I wanted to save money. I came here explicitly with money saving goals, and I've had to do a little more work on the box truck than I expected going in. So while I didn't save as much money as I wanted to, there have been improvements to the box truck that I think are going to be worthy to long-term living in there being better and more enriching and fulfilling. So I don't regret them. There were purchases made, some of them necessary, some of them wants, but I think there are wants that are going to lead to better box truck living. So I have no issues with the fact that I've had to spend money in that arena. It's better to have the money and be able to take care of those things than to not have the money. And then there's things like what's going on with my crossover valve that's causing my coolant leak, where like that just needs to be repaired. I cannot drive to my next job, which is in a completely different state, with that crossover valve like leaking coolant the way it is, and it could lead to other long-term problems, you know, if I let it just go on. So I have no regrets about that money being spent. But my drive to not spend money on quote unquote extra things and just focus on work, and I came here like super laser-eyed focused on, you know, getting the job done and being at work. I never conceived of hanging out with people outside of work, you know, going to, you know, drinks, even though I don't drink alcohol. It's just a thing. I just don't. But you can go to a bar with people and drink something besides alcohol and just hang out. You know, going out to eat, going out to do anything. And Ashland is gorgeous, and Medford is gorgeous, and there are things in the Ashland Medford area that are gorgeous, but I was bound and determined to be responsible in the situation. I think to the detriment of having a little bit of a social life while I was here. I am also a person, it takes me a while to get comfortable around people, and I've had things with coworkers go bad in the past. You know, we had our little work/friend group, and then when something goes bad in the, you know, the friend group, it inherently is going to affect work. And so like I have heavy boundaries set up around that situation, and so there was a little hesitance of like getting in too deep outside of work with people, just because I've had that go bad in the past. And I am naturally an introvert, so you know what, I can be home reading books, watching movies, playing video games on a day off. And also honestly, if I have one day off, chores and relaxing, that's all I want to do. So when my schedule was the most intense, I definitely had zero interest in like going out and doing other things besides work, home, work, home. But I will say the box truck itself, van life itself, in this specific situation, not outside of it, there's tons of like social opportunities for van life outside of this situation, but in this situation, I was very cautious. And I'm allowing myself more leeway at the end of the situation than I gave it at the beginning of the situation. Just because there are people I feel more comfortable with on the tail end than I did right at the beginning. And I was very nervous about throwing myself into these situations. And, you know, I have my guards up, and there's really nothing I can do about that. But I will say, the next time I'm given this opportunity or a similar opportunity, I'm saying yes to housing. Bye. Thank you for joining me for yet another video. If I was a good YouTuber, what I'd say right now is like, share, subscribe, help me survive the YouTube algorithm. But I can admit, since I've been doing this job at Oregon Shakespeare Festival, I've been a horrible YouTuber. So I want to extend special thanks to anybody who continues to support me on YouTube memberships and Patreon. I am making plans for what I want to do with video as I wrap up the end of my Oregon Shakespeare Festival situation. Just some future things I want to do videos about. One of the reasons those foldable panables are still in the box is because I'm going to use them for the video about how you can use your own panels with Jackery. So I do have some ideas I'm working on. I'm just working on also wrapping up my time of Oregon Shakespeare Festival and moving on to the next stage. See you in the next video. Bye-bye.